But we keep putting ourselves in this cycle of going to a higher level. And every time you go to a higher level, there's going to be a dip. There's going to be a dip in money. There's going to be a dip in inspiration because the idea is exciting. Mm-hmm. But once you start getting into it, now it's more stress, less time, less money, more aggravation. And then you got to still run whatever you're running right now. But that going to another level, people think that scaling is going up like that. Scaling is like
up, way down.
Dip. Let's lay a foundation, and this is where it sucks. And then we slowly build up, and at least we have a stronger foundation to build off of. But entrepreneurship is stressful, and my tone has changed from when I first started with the Sleep is for Suckers brand. Because I'm like, everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. Everybody should build a business. Now, though I think it's still true, I don't think everybody needs to build something for success. I think someone needs to build something just to get out there and just have fun in a hobby with no pressure. You already got your job. It ain't about making money. It's about doing something cool. I think there are some people that should do that. And for the crazy people like you and I, you got to go after it, or you're not going to feel fulfilled your whole life.
And so then you have to ask yourself, is ambition worth it? Like when we are, looking for someone else to date and we have all these prerequisites, like I want a man or I want a woman who is this and this. Oh, and they got to be ambitious. Ambition can keep you broke for a while, for a long 100%. While. Ambition can keep you stressed out for a long while. Ambition can keep you really busy for a long while. And so you have to ask yourself, is ambition really worth it to you? Like, is the reward greater than the risk?
Yeah.
Right?
Here's the question that I asked on one of my posts. Let's say you have children, small children, and you haven't accomplished this financial success that you desire. Do you front load the work, activity, and risk some of those formidable years? Is it formative years of your child where you got this baby, but people say, when you have kids, it make you go harder. Well, do you go harder and miss those first few years that you'll never, ever get back? You want to miss the first steps? Me and Dre are sitting in the room yesterday, saw him 7 months, and he's been like, he'll stand up on stuff, grab stuff, or he'll stand up and like just kind of fall down, but he stood up for like 8 seconds on his own. And we're like, oh my gosh. Dre's like, get the phone. We're recording it. And at that moment I said, whoa, I was here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was here. I saw it. Yeah. And that felt so good for me, right? But the question remains is, do you miss all of that stuff and go after it? So maybe by the time the kid is 10, 12, they're at a point where you can provide for them and you can teach them, and maybe you can spend more time with them now, but you kind of forfeit those first years, or you front load them with love and you spend as much time with your kids as possible. And maybe after they get out of the house 18 years later, then you go hard. How do you instill a goal into someone else?
Yeah.
Especially even like people that work for you, or anybody ever try to do a business with your friends and they with it for them first couple hours? How do you instill how do you cast a vision and get someone else to buy into that vision?
So generally speaking, with Dej, my daughter's name is Deja, I did not give her this goal, right? What I did was gave her a part-time job. And I allowed her to also get other jobs. She's worked for, Chick-fil-A and the ice cream shop and Dick's Sporting Goods. I allowed her to go out into the world and see the difference. See how hard you work for someone else, how hard you work here, pick your heart, right? And over years, as she's matured, like I was really, really intentional about not telling her so much that I wanted to build a family business because I didn't want her to feel obligated to it. But when we started to have the conversation about college, she did not know. She had no clue what she wanted to major in. And I suggested to her that in this day and age, marketing will always be an essential skill. And she's really, really great at, paying attention to the details and the analytics and things like that. So we chose that. And then as she started to perform in my company, I let her know that it was an option. It was available. And when she also saw that I hired my cousin to come in and do some work, I believe she got more excited. It was less pressure. In the beginning, she was working with just very grown adults that are my age. But now that I'm building a team that's more youthful, I just put her in the environment. I put Brianna, my cousin, who is my assistant, in the environment, and I'm allowing them to select and solidify their position. They are communicating to me that they want to help me build this to an 8-figure and beyond brand. And I'm here, like, let's do it. Now, if they decide that they don't want to, I have other family. I am really thinking this out in real time. I only bought another car in 2020, I think, at the end of 2020, because of your pressure. Donnie, you don't look like you out here getting money in your Chevy. You ain't getting no money
Chevy
in that.
It wasn't Donnie Wiggins. It wasn't.
You ain't getting no money in the Chevy. So I literally go and buy a Mercedes. When I went the other day and bought that Mercedes, or a couple of weeks ago and bought that Mercedes, I'm like, David's going to be proud.
Yeah, and that joint was Donnie Wiggins, too.
Because the Mercedes that I bought, y'all, still wasn't me, but I was still operating in fear from that place. I actually didn't even go to buy that particular car for myself when I bought it at the end of 2020. I went to go buy my daughter a car for her 18th birthday. No, it was for Christmas. I went to go buy her a car, and the deciding factor for me to get one was the salesperson was like, "Oh, so are you trading in the Chevy?" And I'm like, "Oh no, that's my car." And he's like, "Wait, so your daughter is going to be riding in a Benz and you're going to be still riding in the Chevy? That I've never seen that happen. That's really," he was like, "That's really generous of you." And I literally, you probably flashed through my mind like, David is going to clown me.
I would have.
He's going to clown me if I make this decision. So I ended up buying 2 cars, and I thought I was doing something. Like, I got her the entry-level SUV, and I got me the one step above that SUV, and I'm riding like I got my little Benz. I'm doing something. And I pull up to the E-complex, and David was like, "Oh, this is nice.
It's nice.
It's nice."
Compared to the Chevy, it was nice. It was an upgrade.
It was an upgrade.
For sure.
Yeah, it was an upgrade. But I felt like I needed to, what's crazy is I was so scared to buy those cars. And the fear was because I've had 2 vehicles repossessed, right?
Trauma.
Trauma.
You got vehicle trauma.
I have expensive things that are unpaid off trauma.
Ooh.
It's not just vehicle trauma. So it was like, for example, when I went and bought this watch, I had the option to put this on a credit card, but I have trauma associated with remembering charging things up, and when the recession happened way back when, losing all my income, and I couldn't make those credit card payments. So I don't know if you remember, but I actually went to the bank and I came back with $23,000 in the envelope. Remember, we looked online and saw how much it would cost, and I came back with that amount in a zippy bag from the bank, and we went to the Rolex place, and actually you put it on your credit card.
Yes.
And I gave you the money.
I wanted the point. Hold on, Reese, was it? We're good? Okay, I don't know.
We're always good here. It's full transparency with Donnie Wiggins, baby.
Yo, my mind in content, always
you're
moving.
in production.
I went to I went to EYL studio, and I found myself like, hey, that light, I'm like, yo, let me stop.
Okay. We have a different process here. Reese signals me very differently on this set. Yeah. But I say that to say, I remember you wanted the point, so I gave you the cash. But for me, I had to pay it off and be done because I own it. Right. And so I was traumatized even in real estate. Like, when my house that I worked so hard to buy when I was 24 years old, I bought a really big, beautiful home, and then I would go later to lose it before I was 30 years old, maybe at 30 years old, right? So I lost this house, and I realized, like, I don't own shit. I didn't own anything. You don't own this home until you pay this freaking mortgage off. If you fall upon a hard time, you can be foreclosed on as quickly as you can be evicted from an apartment. Like, I got a house thinking nobody could ever take this away from me, and the first thing that they came and took from me was my house.
Gracious.
That was the first thing to go. In fact, my cars were out for repossession, and they had foreclosed on the home. I had already gone to move with my mom. The car that they were coming to get, I just parked that thing at the house, and I called at the house that they had foreclosed on, like, look, y'all can go pick that thing up.
Oh my God.
Because it's a wrap. So yes, I have trauma associated to things that I don't own in full.
Yeah.
But where I was going with that.
Okay.
So I'm at Houston's eating, one of my favorite spots. And the sales manager that I've now been working with for years over at Mercedes, because now we have a relationship. He calls me and he is like, hey, you want to come and test drive this brand new Mercedes? The, what do you call it? The EV, the electric vehicle. And I'm like, sure, I don't have anything to do. So I just roll over to Mercedes. And he's like, I get in the car and I'm like, this is like a S550. He's like, yeah, it's the electric version of that car. And I'm like, this is nice.
Beautiful.
And he's like, you want to test drive it? I said, no, I just want to buy it. I had no fear associated with getting that car. And for me in that moment, it was like, wow, you've grown up.
Congratulations.
You've released a little trauma.
Let's go.
You know what I mean?
It's on yourself. You deserve it too. You work really, really hard. And you take care of a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that you take care of you too.
Yeah.
I'm learning that. So
yeah, that is true. I don't even own my own home. I bought my mom a home, but I don't own a home. And I really am the person who does for myself last. Yeah, I do. So I felt that was the first vehicle that I've purchased since the success has happened that I bought just because I wanted to. Gotcha. And I haven't driven, I kept my truck. I haven't driven that thing in 3 weeks now. But I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm going to. Yeah, I'm going to.
And I think somebody is thinking, oh, wow, I'm going to be more transparent with my audience. How many people was thinking that? But I think the first thing you have to do is be comfortable in your own skin. You have to look at yourself and be transparent to yourself. There are many, many faults that I see when I look in the mirror. And every day I get more and more comfortable with them. Every day I get more and more comfortable with them. I have a real challenge retaining information. So I was just talking to Marlon earlier today, and he was like, yo, I'm thinking about getting in trading. And I'm like, yo, you got the brain to do that. Like trading stocks and options or crypto, whatever, right? I said, I don't have that. He was like, well, you don't have it or you don't want to do it. I'm like, bro, I ain't got it. Everything I've learned is through practical application. I can't just read it or watch it and learn it and then apply it. I can't, right? So I remember somebody told me, yo, stop saying you can't. I'm like, yo, I am comfortable in the stuff that I can't do. I'm really comfortable in the stuff that I can do. Not nervous coming out here to talk to y'all about entrepreneurship. This is me. I know, and I can trust Donnie. No matter what I say, she gonna piggyback. She knows she can start a conversation and I can piggyback, but it's gonna be from real life experience. But I am comfortable being me. That's why I roast me so much. One of my biggest anxieties is, one, I always had head issues.
Because you don't grow hair anymore, or? Well,
it started when I was a child. So look at this. I got a little peanut head. It's like a little dip right here.
Oh.
And there's a dip. It's two of them. It's a here and then.
It's not just two though. If you look at it from this.
All right, bro. All right, chill. So for a long time, I don't need you to piggyback on that. For a long time, that was an insecurity. And then my hairline starts to recede. And I'm like, wow, I'm really never going to get married at this rate. But I just wore a hat on all the dates, and I had my wife fall in love with me first. And then one day I'm like, do you still love me?
What I think is so crazy, though, we were literally just in the dressing room.
All right. Now. That's enough.
We were literally just in the dressing room, and Dave goes in the mirror. He gets in the mirror, and he's
No, I'm not ready to share that just yet.
He's like, look at my ears. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, do you notice anything about my ears? I'm like, well, they're really big and they stick out. And he's like, no, it's not that. I'm like, oh. Do you notice?
Then she started pointing out other stuff. She's like, oh, what about the back looks real funny. I'm like, no, that's not it.
I'm like, the back is really closely connected to your neck. And he's like, no, that's not it. I'm like, you don't have earring holes? He's like, no, that's not it. You really don't see it? I'm like, no, I don't see it. He's like, I've got hair growing out of my ears. See?
It's my first time seeing it today, though.
Well, it's not my first time seeing it. But as you're talking about your hair,
Are you going somewhere with this?
I just find that it's so interesting. Listen, God will. You probably been praying for hair.
Gotta be specific with the prayers.
You gotta be specific with them prayers, baby. Transparency. Reese, if you can, zoom in on that left ear. That's the heaviest growth.
Oh my gosh.
side.
Back to the lesson, okay? The lesson is
be completely comfortable in your skin, even if hair is growing on it out of order.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Think about this in all seriousness. And I know this for a fact because I teach a lot of people like in podcasting. What do you think one of the first reservations people have in podcasting is? Well, their own voice. People hate hearing their own voice. And the fact that you don't like hearing yourself on a playback is, one, you'll never get an opportunity to continue to practice being able to deliver a message. But two, there's so many people that will not get the information that you have because you don't like your own voice. And you haven't embraced your own voice. The same voice that you hear all day, every day, since you've been alive, that same voice. And most people don't realize is everybody has their own tribe. Everybody has sheep that will only listen to their voice. You are a shepherd over some people, but they'll only listen to your voice. There are some people okay, we have a great podcast, right? But if you start a podcast, there's some people that say, yo, nope, I don't resonate with them. However, Marlon, you're just like me. Your sheep will listen to your voice. But the reason that most people will not succeed is because they can't put the content out because they don't like hearing themselves. They're uncomfortable with their own voice. And how many other areas are you holding back in because of something about you that you're not comfortable with?
And operates her business, but your content has to happen one way or the other, period. So all this, my hair's not done. My hair not done. I got my hair done on Saturday. It's 4 days later. All right. My hair not done. We show up and we make money. Your makeup's not done. Show up. Your face breaking out. Show up. You don't know what to say. Say anything. This makes the difference. And this isn't just from 2020. This literally, when I got on Facebook somewhere between 2008, 2010, this is on the other side of, I had just lost everything. And here's this platform that allows you to just vent. Just say whatever you want to say. And I'm telling people because I had been known in my circle for being successful, how do you create this massive amount of success, which was massive at that time for me. I was making $250,000 a year, felt massive to me. How do you go from this person who has this amount of success, you're all the way up here, everybody's celebrating you. Anytime I go to the reunions, it's oh, there she go. And then I have nothing. I lost my cars. I lost my home. I'm living with my mom. I'm sharing a bed with my daughter, my old childhood bed. How do I show my face? What do I do? Am I going to let the embarrassment take control of me? And I decided immediately, you know what? Nobody's going to beat me to this embarrassment. I'm just going to put it out there. Y'all, I lost everything. Watch how we about to come up, though. And I took everybody through it. As I'm thinking this through, I literally posted about my every move. Some of you guys feel oh, let me hold this to my chest until it's done. That didn't work for me. Sharing the journey and creating content that exposed the truth about what was happening in my life and what I was building. At that time, that business was a clothing store. Just sharing that journey is what really took it to the next level. So I want you to write down right now, what are 3 types of content you can create? Most of you won't have employees right now, so that part won't matter. What are 3 types of content that you can create that are relevant to your business model? Write them out. Is it behind the scenes content? Is it educational content? Do people love to see my behind the scenes, so I show it. They like to see David's behind the scenes, so he shows it. Is it your educational content where you're giving game? Here are the 3 ways that you do X, Y, and Z. Is it your motivational content where you're really empowering and impacting other people? One of my favorite types of content is agitation content. I love to agitate the crap out of y'all. I love it. I'm gonna call you out in my content. I'm gonna make you read this and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, this is it. Oh wait, she's talking about me. My feelings hurt. Because I am going to agitate you to the point where you are going to make a different decision. You're going to make a change. What is the different types of content you can create? Write that out, period. The other thing is I want you to figure out the roles that you must play in your company. You don't have the money to hire anybody right now. Take it off the table. Don't ask me how we put a team together. That's not your mission right now. You are your team. Say it with me. I am my team. I am my team. If you know that, say it like you mean it. I am my team. All right. So you are the team right now that's going to get you to your first $500,000. Do you believe that? I don't feel like you do. Because nobody said you are. I am my team. And so I want you to write out the roles that you must play every single day. Are you your operations director? Are you your marketing expert? Are you your accounting and payroll person? Are you your content creator? Are you the expert? Write it out right now what has to happen in your business. This is like real talk. You can literally go back on my page to 2020 where I made a post talking about just this. I am my everything. I am my everything.
Yeah, I would also share too, even creating content and like executing this list should probably be an exercise for you in your ability to execute on the list. Or creating content, you might not have it perfect, but let's work on being able to be consistent enough to create something on a consistent basis. And what I found too, man, is that a lot of kids do follow in their parents' footsteps, positive and negative. If you go to an impoverished area, we see a lot of the kids following in the footsteps of the parents. You ever seen somebody say, yo, and even successful people today, they always got a story, yo, my dad went to jail, his dad was in jail. I know a bunch of friends who were actually in prison with their father. Or we take on the family business, something illegal. Or have you ever met those people where I'm a teacher, my mom was a teacher, her mom was a teacher, I'm a nurse, parent was a nurse, her parent was a nurse?
I'm an AKA, daughter's an AKA. I'm not, but the same thing, like even down to your sorority.
We got to be careful to know what we're showing our kids. And what are you showing them? Are you showing them how to quit? Are you showing them how to start and stop and start and stop? Are you showing them how to blame everybody else? Are you telling them are you bad-mouthing their parent in front of them? Listen, for me, I am very, very intentional about what my children see.
Yeah.
Even, you have a disagreement with your spouse, right? But I'm very careful to show them how to handle this particular disagreement. My child has never seen me cuss at my wife, never seen me disrespect my wife. I've never said anything negative to my child about my wife. This is important. We gotta show them.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Many of us weren't taught by example. We're figuring it out along the way. Guys, I don't come from a perfect background, right? I had some great role models and examples in my life, but I also had some negative ones. And the thing is, you get to choose which one you're more attracted to. You get to choose which one you decide to follow. There was a quote.
Hold on real quick. In the back, that little group, Bryn, no, none of that. Everybody sit down because we can hear y'all back there. So no conversations back there. Everybody just come sit down. I know you're like, man, how to hear us up there? It's like everybody in little conversations makes one big conversation. Cool? Kids crying, I ain't mad at that because I got kids and ain't nothing you can do about it. I'm cool with that, okay? All right, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
There was a quote, I don't remember who said it, but I heard someone say one day from a stage, and this is when I was at my lowest point. I went to a conference. I snuck into this conference. Like when somebody was walking in, looking, and they were getting their bag checked, I snuck around them and got in the conference. I know, real low life behavior, but I got in, and it changed my life.
Low vibrational behavior.
Very low vibrational, but I had to get the information right. I heard somebody say, parents, you instill in your kids every single day. You go out there and you tell your kids, you better go to school. You better get good grades. I expect A's from you. You drop them off at school and then you go back home and you're a failure at home. Meaning you're letting day by day go by that you're not going after your goal. Day by day go by that you're lounging around in bed instead of doing something that you know that you'd be doing. Day by day go by that you're choosing to settle every single day, but you think your words are going to create a shift in your children, right? We have these expectations on our children. Behave, do well, don't embarrass me, be great in life. But then look at your life. Behave, do well, don't embarrass yourself, be great in life. When I heard that, it literally changed the way that I looked at life. I was a person who had recently gone through a foreclosure, had recently gone through a repossession of multiple vehicles, was playing hide and seek in the dark with my daughter, not because we turned the lights out, but because the lights were out. And I'm telling her every single day, go in there and do great. Sit in here and study. You have to study. You have to be great. You have to get these good grades. I'm telling her all these things, but I'm sitting at home feeling sorry for myself, trying to figure out the next step. Everything that I have done had led me to failure in that moment, but my voice is telling my daughter to go out and be great. When I heard that, I realized I had to match the voice that I had for her with the action and the activity that I had for myself. I could no longer tell my daughter, you better go out there and get good grades. You better go out there and do X, Y, and Z if I weren't doing the work first. And literally, that stuck with me. I never stressed her out about a test. If she didn't do well on a test, did I do well on my test? Did I do well on what I was supposed to do that day? Did I prepare? Did I study? Did I turn the TV off? Did I go to bed at the right time? Did I get out there and beat the pavement? Those are the questions that I started to ask myself, and literally the principles that I live by now. Like, we're not perfect. We don't have a handbook on how to do this, guys. You have questions that you will ask us, and the answer from me will always come from what I have specifically experienced. I will never tell you something that I read in a book, or I will tell you, I don't know, I read in a book that X, Y, and Z. But what I'm telling you is literally coming from experience. You want your kids to follow in your footsteps. I don't want my daughter to follow in my footsteps. I want her to create her own path. I just want her to realize and recognize the opportunity that she has here with me and find her place in it if that's what she chooses to do long term.
The things have changed. How has life changed for you in the last, let's just say, 2 years? What's different about David Shands today that was not true of you 2 years ago?
It sounds kind of like politically correct, kind of, but I don't think anything has changed about me or what I do. Mm-hmm. I've just been literally doing the same thing, and when you do the same thing, it starts to grow. I don't think I've done anything differently. I've done the same thing, maybe smarter. I figured out better ways to monetize it because money is more important to me now. It just wasn't important. Like, you just do what you can, and you do what makes you happy, and you make enough to be able to be lit. And now I'm starting to think of, okay, how can I do this and just further monetize it? Mm-hmm. But I don't think I've done anything different, and I don't think I've become anything different. I still do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. At a much higher level, though.
At a much higher level.
At a much higher level. You are very different. So immediately, I am thinking about now, I can't even walk through the streets with you without people like, oh, bro, I love what you've done for the culture. I watch every episode of Social Proof.
But that's not me being different.
It's very different. It's a thing. Well, because now you are a recognizable influencer. Like, you've always had influence, but it was in a really small circle. Yeah. And now that circle has turned into like this massive bubble. Yeah. And there are people now who see you as larger than life.
Yes. I don't get it just yet, because I'm the person that introduces people to another person.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I've done for my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's kind of strange, but it's inspirational knowing that a regular person, I always look at myself as like a regular person, not in a I'm not saying it like to inspire you, but I've always just not been the best of anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've always just been the person who can, hey, you like me? Cool. But this person over here, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So that's why we have the podcast, and the conference that that actually the podcast came from was me highlighting everybody else.
You just said something. You said, I'm not good at anything. I just do what I do.
I've never been the best.
I've never been the best. So I was listening to Jim Rohn this morning. That's our guy. Yes. I was listening to him this morning. He was talking about discipline. I was going to come in this morning and do a solo episode to talk about discipline. But, you know, you guys, David has attachment issues, so he had to come in. And I'm like, just come on in. Let's talk.
That's all my friends.
So I am listening to Jim Rohn, and he said something profound, because we will get confused with saying, man, I work so hard, and that's why I'm successful. He broke it down so easily, and my whole perspective changed. He said, you are not successful because you work so hard. You are successful because you found something that's easy to do. What's easy to do is also easy not to do. Correct. Right? And you are successful because you work hard at doing the easy to do thing. That was like, it really was, because I thought about what we do.
Yeah.
In my business, I'm a business coach. The main functions of my company are to take sales calls, enroll people into our program, either have students go through an automated course that I've taken time to put together and answer some questions once a week. That's one function of my business. My other business, my coaching practice, is to, same thing, take sales calls, enroll clients into the coaching program, and I show up once a week to answer their questions and give feedback. It's easy for me to do.
Yes.
With the Social Proof podcast, with the Full Transparency podcast, every single Wednesday or Friday, I come to the same building. Yeah. We're either in the Social Proof studio or in the Full Transparency studio, sitting in front of a camera. I am recording and I'm talking about topics in my lane, easy for me to do. We don't study for this. We don't prepare. We've been preparing all our lives, but there's no preparation that goes into this. I show up. I get the hardest thing for me to do to do this podcast is to decide what I'm wearing that day, right? But the hard work is the discipline that I invoke on myself to stay disciplined to do these, or to stay consistent at doing these things. The hard work is actually the consistency. The hard work are the habits that I create, meaning if I don't show up for the sales calls, we don't enroll clients, and I don't have people coming into that program, and I can't do that thing that's easy for me to do.
100%.
The success comes from the hard work, which is the discipline and the consistency, and people miss that piece.
Think about it.
I actually want you to really think about this. Like, this is real time, like taking action. What right now can you identify about yourself? And you don't have to say it out loud, but what's that thing that's holding you back from taking that next step or going to that next level, starting your podcast, taking your business to the next level, going into a new division? Maybe you're doing right now, but you want to be teaching. What's stopping? You're smiling. You already have identified something. And I can relate this back to David encouraging me to start the Full Transparency podcast. And it took about 6 months of just really saying, Donnie, you should do it, you should do it, you should do it. Well, most people assumed that my fear was doing a podcast without Dave. And that wasn't the fear. I've always thought that I would be the next Oprah Winfrey, right? Like, give me the mic and a chair, set me up, and let me go ham. But when I started to do Social Proof podcast, and I know everything that goes along with it, I know that one of the dynamics that make us so great is the fact that we are together. And I wasn't afraid of sitting in front of a camera and talking and, solo episodes. That's not it. Do people want to see me without Dave sitting next to me?
You never told me that.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
The dynamic of Dave and Donnie is powerful. Y'all wasn't rocking with it at first, but then you grew to absolutely love it. You love it so much. Now if we create this separation and it's just Donnie, even though I know what I'm talking about, do you want to see me by myself? That was one thing. That was one fear that I had to get over in order to do it. The second thing was knowing me and my level of procrastination. Am I going to stick with this to deliver episodes week after week after week? Do I want to give myself another task that forces me to challenge myself in an area that I have struggled in all my life? That meant that in order to do this, in order to execute on it, I had to face a challenge and correct it. I have to show up because now we've put it out. And if I miss an episode, which won't happen, you guys are holding me accountable, and then I'll lose viewership because it's like, oh, okay, she was consistent, now she's not anymore. If David and I didn't put out the Social Proof podcast every single week, we weren't consistent, we didn't show up for ourselves, you would find someone else to watch. So there's two things with this new idea, and I'm saying it this way because most of you, raise your hand if you already have a business. Keep your hand raised if there's a new direction that you know you need to go into in your business. Put them down if you don't. All right. So most of you already have an existing idea, but you know there's something you should be doing, whether it's starting your own podcast, whether it's building your authority so that you can become a coach or a consultant, whether it's you know now that you need to stop just trying to let ads sell for you and you actually need to take sales calls. You're afraid to get on that phone. You don't think you know what to say, but you're not preparing for it. You're instead hiding and running from it, so you never get to confront that fear, that thing that's uncomfortable for you. I want you to take a note right now. If you're taking notes on paper, I want you to write down three things that have consistently shown up and held you back from going to another level. There's this challenge again. Sometimes it's procrastination.
Outside of the outcome of the thing, I think we got to first focus on our ability to actually do something consistently. And it shows up across the board in everything that you do. So you might think, well, I don't like doing social media, and when I make a video, it don't really hit, or my posts, nobody's engaging, and that might stop you. But you don't realize that your ability to go through that down market is showing up in your ability to go through when nobody's buying. Because how you do anything is how you do everything, right? You've heard that? So like we need to have an exercise of actually being able to do it. And once that year, 2021, that year we focused on making the first $1 million. The year before, I think I might have did like 600,000. Mm-hmm. The very next year, it was like 6x. But it wasn't because I did anything outside of what I normally do. I focused on my ability to put a system in place, my ability to execute, my ability to ask someone for the sale, my ability. It wasn't like the skill set that I focused on.
Wait, that's a C. We're adding a C.
Oh,
because you hit two of them right now, and I don't want you to go too far because we're gonna formula this thing on out.
We're
so
not
we
gonna
hit
get to them last three.
Capability. Capability.
Okay.
Focus on your capabilities.
Yep.
Keep going.
I don't know where I was.
You were focused on your ability to sell and ask for the money.
Yeah. So the list that we all make, we make the list of all the things that we need to do. Right? But right next to that list, let's drive a line down the middle. There needs to be a list of all the things we need to improve on as human beings, as people. How's your focus? How long can you sit down, create it, and like create a plan on something? How long? Maybe 4 minutes and it feels like 30. Like looking for an answer for something. How long? You go to a YouTube video, you click one, it's not giving you what you're looking for, you go to another one. And the second time you watch a little less than you watched the first one, then you go to a third one, then you go to Google, and then you're done. And then you ask somebody. Like how long, like that's a flaw. Mm-hmm. How many books have you started and haven't finished?
Too many.
That's an indication that you're starting businesses and haven't finished. You're starting projects and haven't finished. And you just buy another one. And you start that one and not buy it. And so somebody gives you another recommendation for a book and you buy that one and you don't read it. How many courses have you bought that you haven't finished? It's not getting the information. It's your ability to be consistent. It's your ability to complete something. That's how you completed something. Go for it.
Prolific.
That was the journey that I was on. I wasn't on the journey of working on being like better at a thing. I'm working on being a better person.
A better person.
I think I got a little list of things. Have you ever thought about some of the things you want your kid to learn by growing up? Let's make a little list. Okay, I got one. Good. One thing that I 100% want my child to do or learn is consistency. I want my child to see me doing the same thing for a long period of time. So it was just so dope that I forgot what we were talking about, but my daughter was there, and I think I was trying to prove to my family that I work hard. I think it was we had a bunch of people in our house that lived there. Word, it's mad people. But I'm like, I started out with, I get up at 6:30 every morning. I started talking. And then Corey, who's my 12-year-old daughter. Y'all know Corey? Y'all know Corey? Okay. She was like, yeah, he do get up 6:30 every morning. I see him. That really stuck with me, though. It seems like a passing by, I just noticed it. She's like, oh, yeah, I see it. But I realized, she sees that. It's not like I wake her up because she got to go to school. It's not like I'm saying, hey, it's 6:30, look at me. I wake up at 6:30 every single morning, hit the snooze button once. What? You judging me? Okay, yeah, we talked about it. I hit the snooze button once, and then I get up, and then I go in Sarai's room, and I start reading. That's my morning routine. Every now and again, she'll walk, and she'll see me reading, doing the same thing every single day. What do you think that does for her? It at least shows, wow, my dad is committed to something. My dad has a routine. And hopefully, maybe she goes to college and maybe she does, some other things that she wants to do with her life. But she remembers that, I'm going to get up at the same time every day to make something of myself. Maybe this is a key of success. So one thing I would definitely want to teach my kids is consistency. I literally got a DM yesterday from a guy who is doing well in business. But he sent me a message and said, yo, Dave, I need your help, bro. He said, the last couple of years, my offer has been working. Like, I've been making so much money. He said, but this year, it's hard getting people to open up the budget. He said, I'm really struggling. He said, I'm at a point where I'm about to quit. I don't know if I got to quit, go get a job, or what. And what was interesting is, for one, I told him, well, congratulations. You're at a crossroad that every entrepreneur goes through.
Yes.
Anyone has been successful. They've thought to themselves, this is hard. Mm-hmm. This is tough. It's not working out the way I thought it was going to work out. Mm-hmm. But one, you have to go through that. And two, I told him, I said, I don't know why you think, I didn't tell him this part, but I'm telling you all, I don't know why he thinks he has to either quit his business and get a job or struggle in his business and forego getting a job. Mm-hmm. Meaning, in his mind, he didn't consider, I'm going to have to go get a job to supplement the thing that I'm doing. Yeah. So stopping should never come up in your mind. Slowing down sometimes. So can I tell a story? Yeah. I'm going through my favorite story. I think I wrote it in my book too. I'm going through, me and Brandon Abrams, we were coming from Florida. He lived in Jacksonville, Florida to Atlanta. It's pouring down raining, heavy rain. Like you can't even really see it, right? Mm-hmm. You can't see it in front of you. And we see these cars lined up along the road with their hazards on. Smart people, pull over, stop, and wait for the rain to subside, right? Mm-hmm. Literally while I'm thinking, I'm like, maybe we should like stop and pull over. This is crazy. But I'm like, nah, we'll just go a little slower, put our hazards on, and we'll be good. Literally maybe 2 minutes into that drive, it's dry. No rain at all. It's like this side of the street, pouring down raining. This side, no rain at all. It was the wildest thing. So as we start driving, like, oh, cool, it's only 2 minutes out. I start thinking about all those people that pulled over with their hazards on. They just stopped. They didn't know. Slowing down is necessary sometimes. It's cool, just slow down, but we still got to keep moving. I never forgot that because I'm thinking, yo, I wonder how long they're going to sit there until the rain stops or the world stops hitting them, and you just stop.
Yeah.
How much time are you going to take?
How much time are you going to stay in this same place? That is really profound because that's actually a metaphor. It's symbolism for how easy it is for people to just stop and stay in the same place, like in their lives. Like at that moment you're driving, you're in traffic and people like stop. Instantly, they see a little obstacle. They see a little rain on the path, in the journey. They don't want to get wet. They don't want to get wet. They see a little cloudiness come on their windshield. Even though you've got tools in your vehicle to help you get through, they don't want to activate that because the easy thing to do is just to stop and wait for change to come. Jim Rohn also said this morning, he said that someone asked him, because his philosophy is that success is easy, right? Because you're building success around something that's easy for you to do. And someone asked him, well, if success is so easy, how come everybody isn't successful? And he's like, well, because again, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. And the problem with most people is that they don't seek change. They wait for it. So those people who were on that journey with you and Brandon that day on the road, they were waiting for the clouds to open up. They were waiting for the sun to come. They were waiting for the rain to go. You, however, you and Brandon decided, well, we're not going to wait for this change. We're going to use the tools that we have. We're going to use the instinct that we have, and we're going to keep navigating through this journey that doesn't look great, but we're going to drive until the weather changes.
Yes. Yo, and you know what I thought about too is as I'm driving, there are some people that are on the side of the road. Logically, that's the right decision to make.
Yes.
And they're looking at me driving slowly, and they're probably thinking, why would they endanger themselves?
Yeah.
Why are they, like, they're so dumb. You look how, they're probably saying, people always in a rush, always impatient. They need to pull over like us. They're probably throwing stones at us for moving forward because in their mind, this is the only option. I've got to stop.
I got chills.
Never forgot that.
This brings me to, like, just listening to this whole story could really be this whole conversation 100%. Because that brings me. So I get it. I fully understand why people stopped. Yeah. It's the easy thing to do. And I also agree that they're right. But I also get why you kept going. It was an easy decision for you to make. And I think that you're right. This brings up in me immediately, like when you're talking to other people and taking advice of other people who hadn't yet experienced the journey. Now you've been through a journey like that where, you know, maybe 2 miles down the road, the forecast could be very different. Yeah. And so you're qualified to give some advice. Hey, well, a few years back, this is what I did.
Let me share something with you. We have our list of things we're afraid of, right? Look at the list. That list is comprised of things that hasn't even happened yet. It's not like we had a bully, right? I remember being afraid of a bully that, yo, if the bully beat me up, I'm afraid of that person, right? But for the most part, as we get older, we don't really face bullies like that. We face a bunch of stuff that hasn't even happened yet. Look at it. Okay, I'm afraid of saying no. What's the word? What will happen if you say no? I mean, nothing. I'm afraid of failure. Well, what will happen if you fail? Let me tell you how I got over that. And it was a realization that I had, like, dang, everything I'm afraid of hasn't even happened yet. There's no reason for me to be afraid of it. It hasn't even happened yet. So I'm thinking, man, I'm making good money on my job, and I started this t-shirt business, and I'm making money on the t-shirt business. And I'm like, man, I need to quit my job. But I was what? I was afraid. And I really had to sit down and think. And I was like, okay, what am I really afraid of? And I write down quitting my job, going broke. It doesn't work. And I said to myself, if I quit the Cheesecake Factory and I go full time with my business, if that business doesn't work, I'll have to go back and work at the Cheesecake Factory. That's something to be afraid of, right? But think about it. In the moment I'm saying it, I'm currently working at the Cheesecake Factory. My biggest fear was to quit and have to come back to where I am today. Isn't that crazy? My biggest fear is like what I'm doing right now, and I'm already doing it. That's what pushed me over the edge. And I said, oh, well, worst thing that could happen is I'll be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. What is there to fear? So think about it. You guys are afraid of failure, but you probably wouldn't call yourself a success now, right? In terms of business, because if you were, you wouldn't be going after the business. Does that make sense? So like not making money in the business is your fear, but you're not making money in the business now. So at least let's go through learned experience. Let's like, maybe we can make a couple of dollars. We can learn something. We can at least go after something so that our grandkids, we can sit around. And one of my biggest fears was like having my kids and my grandkids sit around and I have no stories to tell. Or they can point at me and say, he didn't try. Nobody will ever say he didn't go for it. Yeah. And I doubled down. So it had to be some point between 2010 in 2012, there was some sort of like snow ice storm in Atlanta. I was living off
2012.
Was it 12?
Yep, I was stuck in it for 18 hours. Me.
Wow.
In my car, ran out of gas.
Goodness gracious.
Anyway.
I remember, was it 12?
It was 12.
Because there was another one that had to be.
It wasn't
15,
so bad.
Maybe
2012.
Nah, 15 was bad. It was 15 or 16. That was bad too.
2012, I remember because I just started working at the condo building that I live in now. I was working there at first, and they would not. We got all the warnings about this storm coming later that day, and we're texting like, "Do we need to come into work?" And they're like, "Yeah, it should be fine." And we come into work, and maybe 2 or 3 hours into work, they're like, okay, you guys need to go home. And I'm like, great. So now you want us to go out and risk our lives. Yeah. And I'm literally lived 11 minutes from where I worked at that time, but I was stuck on the road for 18 hours, couldn't get through. Dang. So yeah, I remember that one.
All right, then it was 12. And at this point, I'm living on Windy Hill and I'm working at the Cheesecake Factory on Perimeter Mall. And we had, I think I was off that day. But no. I had to go to work that day, but my manager called and said, yo, are you coming? Because we're open. And at this point, I'm like, man, this is an out. I don't have to go to work today.
Yeah.
But I was broke and I needed some money. Yeah, and the first was coming up or something came up that I needed some money. So I'm like, yo, I can be in my feelings. I feel like just staying here and just chilling. But I remember I got on the road, and I think I might have called my mom or somebody. It was like, yo, it's dangerous. Don't go. I'm like, yo, but I need this bread. Yeah. So I start driving. I get on the road slowly. I'm not worried about getting there on time. I'm just worried about getting there. So it's ice on the ground, all that kind of stuff. Only a couple cars on the road, and we're driving. And I get to work, and there's not a lot of people there. And I'm like, man, this looks like a waste of time. But it turns out that a lot of people didn't come in. And it's valid. You're not coming to work. But not a lot of people can go anywhere. But around there are a lot of hotels. So there was some CEOs and people who got some real paper staying in these hotels. So it's me and like a couple of us. I remember some of the managers were acting as servers because we were so short-staffed. But it was jumping in there. That was the most money I've ever made.
That day.
Wow. And like these scenarios always ring in my head, man, if I just get there, there's always going to be some sort of conditions. And I'm not mad at someone for slowing down. I didn't have to go to speed limit. I could slow down, take my time. I got my music. I'm listening, slowing and getting there. And then I got there. And that's why I never stop, because I know that eventually, once I get to the mark, if I'm in the place where I'm supposed to be, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And magic happens there, especially because most people didn't come to work that day.
You know, it sounds so perfect in hindsight.
Oh, yeah.
But in the moment, I know in moments for me, in moments for you, and in moments for everybody who's watching this right now, it's like, yeah, I hear you, but right now I've got this going on. Yeah. I've got rent that I haven't been able to pay yet. I've got a spouse that's not supportive. I've got family who don't support. And they hear us and they're inspired. But in that moment, what was it for you that said, I'm not even considering hindsight. Right now, it's cold outside. It's dangerous. Everybody's telling me not to go, but I'm going anyway. What was that like driving force that said, get up and do it anyway?
Probably when I was a kid, all of my friends, it had to be real bad snow in New Jersey for us not to go to school, right?
For sure.
But we're reading the little numbers on the bottom, and wow, our number comes up. Oh, we don't got to go to school. It's cool. So we call our friends. The number one thing that you do up north on a snow day is you get your friends together. Y'all play football because you can play tackle in the streets. You know what I mean? You play football, right? We're just outside. Something told me to get my shovel and go shovel snow. I'm like, dang, I really don't want to do this, but maybe early enough, I'll shovel snow, make some money, then come back and play with my friends, play football with them, and I'll be good. So this is another moment as a child. I take some time to do something that I don't want to do, but I get the reward, and chances are, they don't come out until later anyway.
Yeah.
So I got to make the money and go play football. I got so many scenarios where I went through something that I didn't want to go through, which now it's easier because I can pull from those references. So the reason someone's saying, well, it sounds easy is because you haven't tried it not once. You don't have any experience of going through anything. Your whole life, you quit. And now when you see somebody enduring something, you're like, oh, well, it's easy for you. No. What's pushing me through that is the countless scenarios when I went through the pain and it was okay at the end. Everybody that's ever went through something, it's always been okay at the end. Going through a divorce, a breakup, it's been bad for people, right? But if you sit and you get depressed and you let your feelings take over, well, it'll be bad forever. But once you get up and say, all right, y'all, I'm about to start working on me. And after breakups, I think that what's the formula? You cut your hair, you go vegan.
You get in the gym.
Go get back in your spiritual bag. You know what I mean?
This is sounding really familiar.
But on the other side,
you change your hair, you get in the gym, you start watching what you're eating, you do your spiritual stuff. So this year I got braids and I hadn't had braids in 7 years. I've been working out consistently all year, definitely watching what I eat.
How do you feel?
I did go on a spiritual fast.
How do you feel?
I feel amazing, but I was just thinking, it was necessary. As you're telling this story, I am thinking about people who say things like, I was born for this. And I don't know. I think maybe you'll hear me say it one day in the future. I can't say I'll never say that again. But it's not that. I think we were all born for this. We were all born with the promise of achieving goals and dreams and acting on purpose, right? But instead of born for this, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, wow, I was really built for this. It was the journey. I was struggling at first between the words between built and developed. And I'm thinking what's the difference between the definitions of built and developed, right? Well, you can build a development, you can develop a building. So they kind of are synonymous. But born is something that I hear people, I was born for this. Yeah, we were all born for this. But were you built for this? Meaning, did you embrace your journey and you went through that thunderstorm, right? And did you recall that moment? Did you go back to your childhood where you're shoveling snow and now as an adult you have an option to navigate an opportunity through the snow? Did you just allow life to happen to you, or did you allow life to build you? Built for this.
100%. And that's the only way you get built for it, is if you gotta face some stuff that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You have to. There's no other. And if you haven't if you don't have the stories yourself, you got to be able to draw from some people who do have the story. That's why stories are so important. Like you tell your story often about kind of going in the house and the kids are or losing your house and the kids are fighting over your daughter's room. That moment, that story helps you. But for the person who didn't go through that, the story helps them to say, oh, wow, Donnie went through that. Yeah. Great. Right. But we have to understand that everything's going to be okay on the other side. If you don't understand it, you'll never get through anything. Yeah. You just got to keep walking.
And even when it's not okay, it's okay.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah. Like you don't always get the result that you want. I don't always get the result that I want. If I got the result that I wanted all the time, life would look very different for me right now. But I am still okay. Yeah. I was doing a live yesterday, and when I said my age, you know, people do what they do, and they couldn't believe how old I was. And somebody asked me, how do you maintain your youthfulness? Like, how do you still look so young and vibrant, right?
Hate them young boys.
Yeah. You know what? I get approached by like 25-year-olds.
Keep you young. You know
what I mean? Sir, sir, my daughter is 21 years old. There is no way.
You're a TikToker.
But I've given this a lot of thought because I don't use expensive products. You know, I don't go in for Botox and fillers and all of that. I believe because I just have a different perspective. Like I am different. I have people around me who, when I talk about some of my hardship and talk about some of the challenges in the journey, they'll say, you know, in order to comfort me, and they'll say things like, oh, well, be careful. You don't have to work so hard. You don't have to do so much in the gym. You don't have to stay up so many nights, so many hours in the night. And it's like those people, because they love me and they care for me, they're trying to highlight my out, right? And when I hear that, it frustrates me in real time. And I'm like, I don't want you to highlight my out. I just want you to support my stay, right? My fight, what I'm doing. And my perspective is different. Like I don't see things as really obstacles. I see them as opportunities. When I see things that happen, and I'm not just talking about in business, I'm talking about in relationship, I'm talking about as a parent. When I see things that in the moment didn't feel good, I always look at it as an opportunity, something that I get to resolve, something that I get to learn from. And sure, it doesn't always feel good in the moment, but that mindset has brought me true peace and happiness, like true joy. There are painful moments that I have experienced in my life, but not a single one that has ripped out my joy, right? And I think that happiness is a cheat code for youth. And I encourage anybody, I encourage anybody and everybody to really get to the core, to the root of what happiness is for you. I will turn away opportunities. I will move a little slower than you want me to, because every step of the way, I have to make sure, am I going to be happy doing this? That's really, really, really important, because I need to be 70 looking 40, right? It's really, really important because I want to be valuable while I'm here. And when you spend so much of your life being unhappy, you really aren't any value to anybody. You can't perform. And I think that's a cheat code for sure.
Entrepreneurship is not easy.
Entrepreneurship is not easy, but rewarding for sure.
Very rewarding. And I thought at one point I would be an entrepreneur that tried to be a successful entrepreneur his whole life, and it never worked.
You thought at one point you would be an entrepreneur that tried to be an entrepreneur that never got
tried to be a successful entrepreneur
and was never successful.
Like you just try and try and try and try and fail and fail and fail and fail. And I just had this vision that it would never work out for me. But I would say it. I would give my, my it's got to work or it's got to work, or I give my I know if I just keep pushing, it's going to work out. But deep down inside, I really thought to myself that there is a cheat code to success, and only certain people are allowed to have it. And then I go into my spiritual mode of some people aren't designed to have success. And maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to have for my life. And then you go into the phase of, well, money's not all that important anyway. And these are all the things that were going on through my journey of entrepreneurship. And I know a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. So I always knew I would be successful, but what successful looked like for me in the beginning was very different than what success looks like now.
Explain that.
So at first, success only looked like just having the ability to work and not have to go to somebody else's job. So I just needed to replace my full-time income. I didn't even need to replace my full-time income, honestly. I just needed my business to make enough money to pay my bills. Yeah. And when that started to happen, I honestly thought that was success. And I was going to be fine with that. It was going to be like, at this time I'm referencing my clothing stores, and I was just going to be like the neighborhood clothing store on the block. And then, you have one emergency that happens, just like a job, and you realize, I need to make at least $1,000 more than, what it takes to cover my bills. But then as time would go on, it's like 6 figures is the goal, and then multiple 6 figures is the goal. I didn't know that I would ever make 7 figures. I just always knew I would be successful.
If you like the video that you just watched, click this one. You're going to like this one, maybe even more. Click it right now.